All right, good morning. Thank you very much indeed for staying with us. Welcome to New Day. And let's get into a conversation with one of the folks on the political business landscape as well. Call him a socialist of some special sort, but he is one man who speaks his mind, but he minds his speech. He tells us as it is. He sticks to the very high principles of life. And some have thought that he is a nonconformist, but we'll get to know him. Some say he is not tolerant. He's received a lot of criticisms, but there's a big fat forum that's coming up that he's championing, and he's joined us in studio. Dr. Ekow Spio-Garbrah, good morning. Pleasure to have you, sir. How have you been?
God is good to all of us. So
I see you're aging gracefully.
By God's
flecks
grace.
of grey in the beard and all of that.
That all helps.
Interesting. So I we'll get into the conference, but I quickly want to pick your general thoughts because you've been in many ministries, energy, industry, trade, and all of that. What's your general impression so far about this new government that's come up?
Well, I was hoping we would stick to our conference subject.
We will, but it's more like an
I think
icebreaker.
it's a new government, so most people are willing to give them some room to maneuver. They may be making some good things and also be making some mistakes, but in due course we'll have a chance to examine them.
Interesting.
And make more
A lot of things have been said in not so distant future. Budgets was read, tax cuts, State of the Nation address, and all of that. You being a businessman, and especially because this conference is talking about the kind of synergy we'll have from industry, academia, and government, what does the budget spell out for you that makes you excited as a man at the top who's superintendent of this?
Well, I think from the business community's point of view, any attempts to reduce taxes and levies will be considered by businessmen as welcome. I think one of the other significant developments has been the decision or the attempt to cap the amount of money going to statutory bodies, and which, according to all governments, has made it difficult for the budget to be managed, because 90+% of the budget is pre-allocated, as it were, by virtue of laws that have been established to various funds. And the government's decision to cap it obviously gives the finance minister and the president a lot more room to maneuver, but it's at the expense of these laws that have been passed over the years and the institutions and the beneficiaries of the different acts, mostly to do with social services, to do with health, to do with infrastructure in some cases. So again, it's a matter of waiting to see how these new decisions are actually managed and implemented. And we'll have lots of comments to make in due course. So I'm holding my guns for now.
Absolutely, he's holding his guns, and perhaps I'll take mine now. My guest is Dr. Ekow Spio-Garbrah. He is here in the studio with us. Your thoughts and comments, as always, on WhatsApp 050-823-5228. That's 050-823-5228. And you can also join us on Twitter, News on TV3, or on Facebook, News on TV3. But Doc, the issue of unemployment, which has been re-echoed over and over again, is because some people think there's a certain disconnect between industry, academia, and what government actually provides. What solution is available to us?
Well, I think one of the reasons for what may seem to be graduate unemployment, there are different kinds of unemployment. So people who are in the rural areas who are not working, maybe a matter of basic education and skills development, maybe a question of access to land and access to funds to convert the land into productive use. But for graduate unemployment, it has been, I think, for quite a number of years, a mismatch between where the economy is going and what kind of educational content we are giving to our students. So by virtue of our colonial past, our educational system has been mostly a neoliberal educational system where humanities and arts has tended to be emphasized. And even though many governments over the years have talked about maths and science and technical education, the vast majority of graduates from our universities tend to have majored in other subjects. It could be the social sciences, it could be history, political science, English, philosophy, etc., economics. But of course, now with private universities, about 80 of them also coming on board, you find that the majority of them are focusing on business, where the graduates feel that they are likely to get employment much faster then of course many of them are funded by religious organizations. So you find theology and religion also being there, and then to some extent ICT and communications. So the challenge has been, unlike some other countries which are able to forecast the labor market. So this is also an employment and labor market subject. It's a matter that the Ministry of Employment and Labor Relations, Ministry of Education, Ministry of Trade and Industry, and to some extent Ministry of Science, Technology and Innovation ought to be able to sit together and plan a little bit better that based on the trajectory of the country's economy over the next 5 to 10 years, based on our national development plans, what kind of economy will Ghana have in 2020 or in 2030? And if so, then what kinds of skill sets do we need to meet the needs of that economy of the next 10 to 15 years? Having been in government over a 20-year period in one capacity or the other, I don't see that kind of robust conversation taking place.
Why haven't we thought about it? Why don't we have that in place?
Well, I'm sure people are thinking about it, but part of the challenge is the interministerial and interdepartmental collaboration.
Right.
By and large, most ministers and heads of departments and agencies tend to sit in their own offices and manage their own little empires. They don't consciously, even though they know that they are interdependent on other ministries and agencies, they don't consciously go out to other agencies and departments and say, look, we have this challenge here and you have that challenge there. How do we solve things out? Except for this is an absolute necessity, you know, for the Ghana Revenue Authority, for example, to speak with clearing and forwarding agencies or importers and exporters. They might do that. But agencies of government, because everyone has their independent power and often are backed by their own separate laws. So if you look at national identification, for example, you find that Electoral Commission is waiving their law, saying we have to give ID cards to voters. Senate will also waive their law, say you have to give Senate ID cards. NHI will do the same. And so you have a plethora of ID cards.
In the meantime, they are all on the board that's supposed to ensure that
everybody standing behind will say, oh, these guys ought to be able to work together and produce one national ID card for all of Ghana. Now, government after government has come, they make the pronouncements, but it's not as easy to implement because they are in entrenched positions. And then I guess you have to put people in a room and threaten them with termination of their appointments if they don't come out with one ID card in 3 days or 1 week. But anyway, so there's a new government. They will also make an effort to improve some of these situations.
Do you see that happening in this government?
Well, as I said, it's very, very early days yet. And I think most people have expressed concern about the size of the government, the number of ministers and so forth. So if that's the trajectory that this government is going to be going on, then I think they're going to have more problems than solutions. But we all pray for success in any government because it's good for all of us. If government succeed, we ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, our neighbors, also succeed. So most people don't pray for, at least I don't pray for the failure of governments. And that's why you want to give them constructive advice.
But you say that the size is quite
Everybody
huge.
knows that. I mean, there's mathematics. So either 7 people can do 3 people's work, or 3 people can do 7 people's work. You compare ministries over the years and you can tell that if this ministry used to have only 3 people, why do they have 7? Or if one ministry used to do a certain job, why has that ministry been divided into 3, 4, 5? You know, so I think these are matters that are being discussed
and these are your opinions about it. But then I'm happy you mentioned this size of the government because for any government to make substantial progress, you're looking at a very strong opposition. Talks are that the opposition has cracks now, a lot of finger pointing. Dr. Ekow Spio-Garbrah has come to say, stop, stop, stop. For you, having been at the high echelons of the party before, does this worry you that we don't seem to have an opposition that's together to be able to put government on the tools to achieve?
Well, I think the opposition is very, very together. I mean, it's very together in Parliament where we have a minority, but it's also together in terms of former ministers who are still available to contribute to the national developmental agenda. And of course, it's normal in a party or in any entity that loses a match, a football match. If you, Asante Kotoko Hearts, Ghana goes to play any team and we lose, we don't come with a medal, we don't qualify for Africa Cup, there'll be a lot of blame gaming. Is it the coach? Was it the player? Or the guy who didn't shoot the penalty well? They didn't get their allowances on time. They didn't get their money paid. It's fairly normal in most situations when things do go wrong. When things go wrong. So that is not unusual. But of course, the party's position, which I support strongly, is that all party members should channel their concerns and potential grievances to this particular committee that has been established, so the committee can have a complete understanding of all the issues that could have taken place before, during.
These are no
and
mean
after elections.
persons making these allegations. Yabwachin, Jan, Dr. Kwabneje, and all of that. And one would have thought, I mean, these are your contemporaries, or some you may be older than some of them actually, and they're making these claims. Is it not worrying, really?
No, I think different people have different levels of frustration.
Right.
And so in a family, when there's a dispute, some people will agree that let's sit inside the compound of the family and discuss the matter. Others will go to the street side and be making noises for neighbors to hear that there's a problem in the family. So you will get different attitudes to problem solving in any organization. But I think the central view of the party leadership, which I support, is let us keep our discussions indoors. There's a platform that has been created. If no platform had been created, and therefore people did not know how to solve the problem, then they might need to go to the media. But as long as a platform has been created and everybody knows that's where to channel your concerns, I would hope and imagine that henceforth there'll be a total cessation of public commentary, adverse commentary, because the party is a strong party with lots of great potential, lots of wonderful people.
Is this problem a leadership problem?
I don't think so. I think even the grassroots, the anger is more at the grassroots level. Those who might say that they have not been paid as polling agents for a certain number of years, or who might say the money was diverted from Mr. A to Mr. B. So the anger level actually, I believe, is at the lowest level, where people might say the party was in office for 8 years and they didn't get anything, which is a very common comment by a lot of people, depending on what they wanted. But people who were appointees, generally speaking, they got a salary, they may have had a car, they may have had a bungalow, they may have had the opportunities to improve themselves, to go on a few overseas trips, get some allowances here and there. So they have less basis for complaint. But grassroots and other middle-level people, some will have complaints.
You say that leadership, and you've explained your portion, but in 2000, I remember vividly how a certain article in the Daily Graphic bordering on Team A and Team B perhaps got you into some uncomfortable situation with some persons. Now, I'm asking this because whether Team A or Team B, they've served, they're gone, and the time is moved on. Some say that you should come back as leader, and perhaps the troubled waters will be calmed because you have a vast experience and all of that. Is it that time yet?
No, I think the time is for our program on Thursday, which is about the Africa Business Center for Developing Education, working with the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Environment, Science and Technology, Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences, to discuss collaboration between government, academia, and industry.
I understand.
That is a very important
I understand.
subject.
Very important.
Like us to discuss.
I understand.
Yes.
And the reason I'm asking this because I see on the bill there's Mr. Alan Tremantin, who is your successor in this Ministry of Trade and Industry. I see other people. It brings to mind a certain perception that people have that you are intolerant, you don't take criticisms, and I see that
how does that bring?
I don't know, and I see
event bring anybody such an idea.
And I see that there's Mr. Alan Tremantin there, who is in government, who's supposed to be on the other side of the political divide. You are there speaking mainly as well. You're on the other side of the divide.
But we're not there as politicians speaking about the other side of the divide.
When somebody
we are there as Ghanaians. You see, that's the point. When somebody sees me, they forget that I'm a father. They may forget that I, as you've said, I have had experience in various fields, from banking to telecommunications. I may be a farmer, I may have been a teacher. Some people see a politician. But some people, when I go to church, others see a former church administrator. When I go to some place, some people see a former university president.
A man of many parts.
It depends on what you want to see. But I'm trying to say that I'm more than simply somebody who stood for public office. In fact, my entire public service life or political life is less than 1/3 of my total career, most of which has been with international organizations. But I'm a very tolerant man. If you see the kind of emails I get or I exchange with my family members, freedom of speech, everybody expresses their views very robustly. Very robust. And I take arrows and spears from all over the place, in a sense of equanimity. I mean, very tolerant. But of course, can be critical. And partly because of that, I'm also happy to receive criticism. Because I think criticism and self-criticism are very important attributes of anybody. Why did you fail to achieve this? If you don't criticize yourself for that, and because my attitude even in class was not to focus on the things I got right, but the things I got wrong. So if you have an exam, you get 65% or 75%, my focus is on the 20% or the 30% I didn't get right in order to improve myself. So I'm more than happy to receive any kind of commentary and criticism. But yes, I express my views. Sometimes I express them strongly and not with any malice in that sense. But the forum is a critical one because that's where we want to resolve
and which is why I'm coming
research,
to
scholarship, internships,
to that one,
etc.
I see a compendium of speakers who are going to be there. It's a 3-day conference. One day conference. Yeah. Are they all able to speak?
Well, they all will be able to speak.
And what will they be talking about?
There are only 4 sessions. I mean, there's an opening ceremony. There's a session where policymakers will look at what are some of the policies that are in place that drive potential collaboration between government, industry, and academia, and what additional policies may be necessary to support those who may be interested in innovation. Ghana, for example, is not a country known for innovation. We don't have much incentive for our students or for our researchers and scientists to produce new products. If anybody asks you, what has Ghana invented in 60 years? Just anything that we've invented. There are not many things we can talk about. There may be some shea butter that we've added something to. There may be some chocolate powder that has been treated one way or the other. But we have, I think, 12 different institutes under the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. So when you hear of a Building and Road Research Institute, you hear of an Institute of Industrial Research, you hear of a Food Research Institute, a Crop Research Institute, Cocoa Research. These are all institutes that are affiliated with the Council for Scientific and Industrial Research. But if you ask the average Ghanaian, even an average cabinet minister, an average MP, please name 3 things that have been discovered, invented, or produced by our institutes. Most people don't know them. Now, it doesn't mean those people are not working. Lots of professors there producing all kinds of wonderful papers, but these don't generally become public knowledge. And they don't often also get commercialized. So you have industrialists looking for new technologies and new product innovation. You have scientists who have some of that knowledge, and the two are not really talking and nobody knows about it. You have students who want to do research on various subjects. If you go to universities and there are 10,000 students, for example, this year, looking to do research at master's degree level, maybe 1,000 or more doing research at PhD level. What are they researching? And do they know what industry wants to be researched? So if industry has a list of 10,000 topics that it needs research on onions, on tomatoes, and avocados, and oranges, and those who are master's degree students and PhD students do not know about this list, so they are researching something totally different, then the two groups are not talking, and therefore we are not making progress.
You gurus in the business industry, doctors and all of you lecture in these schools. You're part of the development of the curriculum or curricula of these students. What exactly goes into it? Where does the disconnect come in? Is it in the creation of the curriculum, the pedagogical approach as to teaching the people, or when they complete school and everybody is expected to become an entrepreneur?
Well, I think it's partly rooted in our colonial past, as I was saying, but also to the fact that government after government since independence has focused a lot more on infrastructure and structures. We want to build schools, we want to provide teachers' bungalows, we want to provide them with laboratories and with buses, but we haven't spent as much time on the content of what goes into the educational curriculum. And to the extent that there's a curriculum development department, or it's actually been spun off into some separate body in the Ministry of Education, the extent of consultations that take place, and whether our own industrial and scientific community is advanced enough to think through where the world will be in the next 10 years or 20 years, because curriculum should not be developed for today. The child of 10, 12, 14 who is studying should be trained for 2030, 2035. But to what extent do we have a clear picture of where Ghana will be in 2035 and what that person should be studying? So by the time they leave university 10, 15 years from their primary and secondary school, they are ready for that world. And that is futuristic planning, which doesn't seem to be part of our thinking.
Will this conference look at it, the forum?
Absolutely, to look at it, because we can't be planning just for today. The National Development Planning Commission plans long term, but beyond that, most governments and most budgets are 1 year budget. So the budget that was just read is 2017. So what can we do with the money now? So the whole thing is focused on today, because we are, because of fiscal deficits and all kinds of challenges we have with our economy, we tend to be 1 year focused, 2 year focused at best. And yet we need some forward planning to plan for the youth of today. Some say the 40-year
development plan, which is under development, is way too long, too
it's
vast.
Long, and yet you need that as well, because I mean, even the United States and the Chinese and Russians don't have a clear idea where the world will be in 2030, 2040. But even the African Union has a 2063 plan of action for Africa. So long-term planning is still useful, and there's some amount of extrapolation or future planning based on current trends. Shall we all be flying in space with our own individual spacecraft? It's possible. Where will brain surgery be? Where will anatomy and all kinds of other scientific developments be? Where will the IT sector and technology be? I think there are people who are future planners and who write a lot of books and research about it. We can download some of that, adapt it to our own environment. Certainly in Africa, what we need is control over our land and our natural resources. Not even just that. You fly over an African country, including Ghana, and you see the way the land is. We don't have control over the land. It's all bush from Accra to Kumasi. You see bush left, right, and center. You do the same to Second Itaquali. It's almost the same. Now fly over an average European country, and you find that the land has been brought under control. If this is farmland, you see this farmland. If this is residential area, this is residential area. If this is a forest belt, this is a forest belt. You
don't mix and match them.
It's all very controlled. So controlling our land and having ability to convert our land into useful products in terms of crops, processing them, packaging them, storing them, freeze drying them, so that we don't have excess losses on our farm gate is one critical aspect of our development. But science and technology has a lot to do with that.
The forum is happening where?
In the Ghana Academy of Arts and Sciences on Thursday. And I think there are a number of institutions that still want to be speakers, who want to be delegates. There's a website, telephone numbers, and I hope there'll be an advertisement in the papers today that will allow them to, to pre-register, to come to participate, and then let us extract.
Is it for free? Can you participate?
It's free. It's free.
So and what time is it starting on Thursday?
You should get there by 7:30 to 8 to get registered, and hopefully by 8:30 we'll kick off.
We'll hear you speak, Mr. Lantramanting. Who else will be speaking?
The Ghana Academy of Arts and Science President, I believe her name is Professor Amma Bentel, should be there. Dr. Bridan, so Vice Chancellor of the University of Science and Technology, is listed. The head of the Gratis Foundation, head of the Ghana National Board for Small Scale Industries. I mean, I believe we've invited people from the free zones, where you have an industrial park. You also want to have a research aspect to handle all the work that is going on in the free zones. But the free zones is not a research institution. So unless scientists from the research and academia come to collaborate there, a lot of things are going on there with hundreds of companies exporting products outside of the country. But whatever innovation is taking place there is not captured by the research and academic community. So there are those kinds of collaborations that we are hoping to explore, all the way to scholarships and internships and mentorships for students while they are studying to be able to get into some of these industries to see the future.
Great initiative. Doc, thank you very much and have a great Tuesday.
It's a real pleasure.
See you take up the mantle of leadership 2020 NDC flag bearer.
You're trying to be a prophet.
I'm
working in the real world, so I leave that for prophecy.
So we will not see you. The calls are coming for you.
I leave that for prophecy. You are getting the calls, I see. You haven't transferred the calls to me.
Well, I'm telling you now, will we take...
So you give me the list of your calls later.
You, so can I lift your hand, President?
Give you.
Thank you, sir.
ABCD, collaboration between industry, academia, and government.
And Spio for 2020.
My current focus.
And Spio for 2020.
Let us focus. No, let us build a nation. You see, it's not about personalities and individuals and their ambitions. If, with all due respect, it's about what we can all do to build a nation.
The potential is clear.
There can only be one president at a time.
Your CV.
So there'll be tens and scores of people who could be president, who will never be president. You look at the United States, they have 17 candidates against Donald Trump. Donald Trump emerges, the 17 have to accept that will not be their portion.
Do you see
so it's a heavenly decision. It's a divine intervention when it comes to that. So as somebody said, the battle is the Lord's.
Doc, thank you very much. And thank you for watching.